Today I will be reviewing the latest PlayStation 5 exclusive, Returnal. Will this be the PlayStation 5's Bloodborne moment, or will it be another knack? There's only one way to find out. Right, so I don't really want to go into the story too much, as part of the fun is unravelling the mystery of what's going on for yourself. So here's just a brief outline. Disobeying orders, Astra, Corporation Explorer, Sienna Vassos, I think I've said that right, attempts to land on the off-limits planet of Atrops. Again, I think I've said that right. To investigate what she dubs the White Shadow Signal, which somehow seems familiar to her. However, upon arriving on Atrops, Selene's ship suffers heavy damage and she is forced to crash land. Unable to contact Astra, Selene begins exploring the planet and is shocked when she comes across corpses of herself. She quickly begins to learn that every time she dies, time seems to loop back to the moment she crashed, sending her back to her starting point. It's a really cool concept, and the time loop genre has been really picking up some steam recently with games such as The Outer Wilds and the upcoming PlayStation exclusive Deathloop. The main protagonist Selene is great and very likeable, and you really connect with her and her struggle to unravel the mystery of Atrops. It's a more emotional game than I thought it was going to be. You encounter a nice variety of enemies and the world is absolutely fantastic. The bosses are great, and although not on, I would say, a Dark Souls level of great, they are really cool and take some beating, and the world's changing layout after every death is also a cool concept. Although it's not completely random, it's pretty much the same areas but put in like a different order or rearranged ever so slightly. So what does it play like? Well, it's really like a hybrid between Dark Souls, Mass Effect and Hades. That's quite a blend, but once you play it, you'll get what I mean. The Dark Souls elements obviously really come from the difficulty, which is a bit higher than I expected, and I think what a lot of people expected. And the fact that you also lose items and progress with your death, well, not all your progress, but you know what I mean. And the combat is quite kinetic, like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls 3. It is also ultimately funneling you to a boss to finish the area, and then you move on to the next area. The Mass Effect undertones is obviously from the sci-fi shooter perspective of things, and obviously the Hades stuff is from the fact that it has roguelike action dungeon crawler structure to it. It also has Metroidvania vibes to it. You do find yourself unable to get to some areas, then you go get an item which solves the problem, then you have to go all the way back to that area, and getting new items unlocks new areas which you previously couldn't access in areas which you have been in. I'm a big fan of these kinds of games. The shooting is also great and uses the DualSense's adaptive triggers really well. I'm going to cover that a bit more in the next section though. Ultimately, every aspect of the gameplay is very simple, but there's a lot going on, and what it does do simply, it does very well. This makes for a really good and easy to get into, although hard to ultimately master, gameplay loop. It's such a one more go game, and that is always a good thing. This game is really the first game that properly shows off what the PlayStation 5 can do. Sure, Spider-Man and Demon's Souls were a good showcase for the new console, but Returnal is the PlayStation 5 working at its best so far. The SSD allows for quick loading and feeds into the natural one more go aspect of it, as you're not sitting waiting on loading screens, like a minute loading screen. After you die, you're back into it, and that's what gives it that vibe, and it's so cool. And that obviously feeds into the different layouts because it can load it so quickly. The game runs at 4K and 60 frames per second and has ray tracing. No other game on the PlayStation 5 has done this yet, although I think Resident Evil 5 might be pushing that. Then there is the DualSense, that is fast becoming the best controller of all time. I know that's bold, but I'm putting it out there. The haptic feedback feels so good with the rain droplets felt on your hands. When you scan something, the feedback can also be felt. When you are shooting, the triggers allow for 2 firing modes by being pushed down halfway to allow for normal firing, like zoomed in, and then fully down to allow for an alternative firing mode. It's just so cool, and it truly is a next-gen experience. Returnal really could be the PlayStation 5's Bloodborne moment, the game that truly launches the next generation. The gameplay loop is very good and addictive, but it's possibly a bit too hard for some, and it probably could use a better save system. The story is amazing and it uses the PlayStation 5 hardware to its fullest. There's really not many negatives to this game. Maybe it's a bit too short, or maybe even some people are saying it's a bit too long for a game like this. And it costs £65, but I'm not really going to hold that against it too much. I think this is a game that is truly something special and unique, and I didn't really see it coming. So I'm going to give Returnal a just essential games.